Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
There's a cool guy named Jason who writes for Jalopnik. I've met him. And he writes great stuff. He writes car stuff, but with a sense of humor. And he also wrote a book which has one of the greatest titles I've ever heard, Robot Take the Wheel. And it's a book about AI and cars and self-driving and so on. But he has a fascination with the odd quirks about cars and the evolution of, say, taillights. You know, how did taillights get to be the way they are now? When did taillights first appear? And that kind of stuff is fascinating if you stop to think about it, because we take all of it for granted. We just assume it kind of materialized out of thin air. And the stuff was all developed over time. But the interesting thing is that some of the stuff on cars, you'd think by now they'd have figured out. Figured out. Can't possibly screw this up. Which leads us to the most recent recall I got to talk to you about. Hyundai and Kia, and by the way, I know it's Hyundai, but I'm going to leave that one in there. Turn signal can flash in wrong direction. The Hyundai-Kia recall, the turn signal can flash in the wrong direction. This story came out yesterday, and the two car companies are recalling more than 550,000 cars and minivans in the U.S. because the turn signals can flash in the opposite direction of what the driver intended. Someone sent me this story, I think it was Caleb, and said basically they've got one job, and you want it to point that way, and it points that way. The recall covers Hyundai's Sonata midsize car from 2015 through 2017, and Sonata gas-electric hybrids from 2016 to 2017. Kia's Sedona minivan from 2015 through 2017 also is affected. Now, here's the question. This is a midsize car from 2015 from Hyundai, right? 2015. Now, I'm a busy man, and math, I do it if I have to. 2015 is a couple years ago. A few years ago. More than a few years. Have these things really been on the road for that long and nobody noticed I go to turn left and the thing signals right? Or I signal right and it goes to left? No one noticed that? Or did people notice it and complain, and were they told, oh, you must be crazy? Because turn signal technology is so simple they couldn't screw that up. It's over 500,000 vehicles here. Hyundai says software in a junction box may not properly interpret signals. See, here might be the problem. And I know there's going to be people in the audience, engineers in particular, who are going to get upset with what I'm about to say. But you realize a turn signal is actually a pretty simple circuit, because you have a light over here and you want the light to indicate. You want it to flash on and off, which I believe just means circuit open, circuit closed, circuit open, circuit closed. That is not extremely advanced electronic magical engineering. That is a pretty simple thing. Turn signal. Now, I admit there's a front signal and a back signal. But since they're both going to be working at the same time, you just run the circuit, don't you? Right now, there are engineers at car companies writing me angry emails that will be over 5,000 or 10,000 words long by the time, explaining to me how federal regulations, modern technology, and a bunch of other things make it more complicated than I'm making it out to be. Which very well could be true. So calm down, guys. No need to hurt your keyboard. Dealers will update the software at no cost to owners. Hyundai will begin mailing notification letters to customers on November 19th, while letters will go to Kia owners starting November 12th. And so what we're talking about now, of course, is it's going to take a month and a half from when I'm speaking to you right now for letters to be mailed through the recently slowed down U.S. Post Office that you will get if you have one of these 500,000 cars, and the letter will tell you, by the way, your turn signals might be working backwards. They might be working backwards. So what you need to do is bring your car into a dealership, and we'll look at it for free, because this is a safety problem. As you can imagine, if you're in an intersection and you're indicating you're turning this way, and you meant to indicate you're turning this way, and then you turn, you might get hit. So that is a safety issue. Some people are going to point out and go, wait, say, Steve, let me get this straight. They're recalling 500,000 Hyundai and Kia cars for a turn signal problem, but they won't recall how many cars with dual clutch transmissions from Ford Motor Company because that's not a safety problem? Hey, I don't make the rules. I just talk about them here on my channel. So dealers will update the software at no cost to you. Hyundai will begin mailing those notifications November 19th, and the Kia owners will get their letters sometime after November 12th. But as of right now, if you've got one of these cars, a Sonata midsize from 15 to 17, or a gas-electric hybrid from 16 to 17, or a Sedona minivan from 15 through 17, you might have a situation where you go to indicate that you are turning right and the indicator says you're going left, or vice versa. And this is one of those things which makes you wonder, because I know I oversimplified it, because obviously when those lights are flashing outside your car, usually there's one on your dashboard to let you know that the ones outside are flashing. So that you're driving in Florida for 45 minutes in the wrong lane with your indicator going, people can mock you knowing there's something on your dashboard telling you that what you're doing is mistaken. But the point is, I'm wondering if this malfunction occurs as they describe it, when you go to indicate the left turn, does the dashboard indicate correctly or does it indicate incorrectly? And I guess the question then is, if the dashboard indicates correctly, does really there exist a mismatch between the dashboard monitor and the outside lights? Because again, I ain't no electrical engineer, but it seems to me that if you have a gauge or a monitor, something inside your car telling you something, it shouldn't be guessing at what's happening. It should be letting you know what actually is happening. So, if you go to indicate a left-hand turn and the right-hand signals blink, the monitor inside the car for the right-hand signal should also blink. Wouldn't you think? Which leads me to believe that that's not what's happening. Otherwise, how would 500,000 cars have been made so far? And how would it be that some of these cars hit the road in 2015 and we're just hearing about this now? Because if it happened once, one person brings their car to the dealership and says, hey, my turn signals appear to be backwards. Well, they'd fix it under warranty, presumably if you brought it in soon enough. And then they'd notify Hyundai or Kia and say, by the way, got this really weird thing. Car came in and the turn signals were working backwards. The question, of course, is whether they could fix it at the dealership without being told how to do so, because it's such an uncommon problem. And if it does involve software, they might not be able to fix it. They may have had to contact Hyundai or Kia immediately upon hearing the first one. But even then, if it was discovered to be a software fix, you think they'd have figured this out. This is all I'm asking. Instead of writing me the angry emails about my mischaracterization of how turn signal circuits work, please explain to me how it's possible that a car was put on the road in 2015, and by the way, it's 2015 model year, it's probably on the road in late 2014, but we'll go with 2015. How was a car put on the road in 2015 where the turn signals worked backwards and they weren't recalled until 2021? How is that possible? Especially if it's a software problem that appears to be across the platforms, not limited to a manufacturing defect every here and there, that kind of thing. That, to me, is what's baffling me. So if you've got the answer to that question, please let me know. Meanwhile, if you've got one of these cars, be aware of the fact that when you go to turn, your signals might be working backwards. And the other question I have is, would that happen all the time or just some of the time? I'd like to know that. Because if it happens all the time, you should be able to check to see if your car is doing it. If your car is not doing it, you're okay. If it happens periodically or unpredictably, then we have a major problem. But this doesn't tell us that. So this story is widely spread across the internet. I'm sure that NHTSA has the recall there if you want to look it up at nhtsa.gov. But Hyundai Kia recall, turn signal can flash in wrong direction. And dealers will update that software at no cost to you if you've got such a vehicle. And they'll be notifying you by mail next month. So there you go. Caleb, John, Ben, Eric, thanks a lot for sending it. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You need to experience solitude, which most people are afraid of, because in the silence, you hear the truth and know the solutions.